Hello, this is Vox News from our London studios. I'm Pamela Bongkiyung. We start in Libya's capital, Tripoli, where an explosion took place in front of the French embassy. The car bomb destroyed the embassy's reception, wounding 2 French guards and causing major damage to homes nearby. The attack took place this morning at 7 a.m. local time. French President François Hollande has called on the Libyan authorities to act swiftly, calling the attack unacceptable. The attack comes after the Arab Maghreb Union interior ministers met in Morocco on Sunday to discuss terrorism and security in the Maghreb region. A French colonel in Mali has said that the Malian army are managing misery as donor funds pledged during a conference from Mali have not been honored. Colonel Bruno Helion, who is training Malian soldiers as part of the EU training mission, urged for a payout to dig the Malian army out of the current rut. Following a donor conference in Addis Ababa, €8 million was pledged by international donors, but not a cent has yet been given. The French Assembly decided on Monday to extend its Operation Civil in Mali. However, other problems such as corruption in the ranks of Mali's army remain a major hindrance. In Ivory Coast, following local elections, clashes erupted on Monday, leaving at least 10 people injured. The incident, which took place in the country's capital, Abidjan, was triggered by results of the regional and local elections. The election, which was very peaceful on Sunday, throughout the 197 administrative districts, went awry when youths went to the Electoral Commission office to contest the results, according to an official in Yamoussoukro. The police were called in to disperse the crowd and had to use tear gas. In the scuffle, some people were injured. Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara had this to say about the whole situation.
Elections are very important. You know, we have a policy of decentralization. We want to make sure that what the government is doing is in conformity with what the people want. So the local elections are an opportunity to assess and to reassess the will of the people and to implement the policies and the projects that are wanted by the people at the local level. I call on all my compatriots to vote today. You know, we had the last elections, the last local elections in 2001, the municipal elections in March, and the regional elections in July 2001. So it's been more than 12 years. It's about time we had these elections, and I'm happy that we were able to organize them today. I'm happy to have been able to vote. I call on all my compatriots to go and vote today and to do it in peace and to choose the candidate they want and in whom they believe for the implementation of their views at the local level. Oh yeah, of course, this process is very transparent, it's very fair, and I think clearly when elections have been reported delayed on several occasions, people might think maybe this is not the right time. But I'm confident that people will vote and the turnout will be all right for us to move on with the implementation of the program of the government. Thank you.
In Zambia, the first day in the trial of former President Rupia Banda on Monday was highlighted by blunders from the prosecution. The prosecution had sought to introduce a photocopied letter as evidence, which was vigorously disputed by the defense, forcing an adjournment to address basic evidentiary matters. Meanwhile, Banda's submission for his case to be referred to the High Court for constitutional issues was dismissed by a Lusaka Magistrates Court. Magistrate Joshua Banda, in dismissing the application, described it as frivolous, vexatious and meritless. The trial continues. In Egypt, President Mohamed Morsi held crisis talks with the country's top judges on Monday. This comes after the resignation of the Minister of Justice Ahmed Mekki on Sunday. Mekki cited the pressure from the Islamist Brotherhood in their crusade to reform the judiciary to their ends as one of the reasons. Morsi is said to have met the Supreme Judicial Council and the Prosecutor General to discuss a draft law reforming the judiciary. A key point in the draft is a lowering of the mandatory retirement age for judges to 60 from 70. This would force hundreds of judiciary members to step down immediately, many of whom have opposed and stopped Morsi's legislative and election plans. Two prominent Syrian bishops were kidnapped on Monday by armed rebels in Aleppo, according to Syria's state media. Sana news agency said the Syriac Orthodox and Greek Orthodox archbishops of Aleppo, Yohanna Ibrahim and Paul Yazigi, were seized in the village of Kfar Dail as they were carrying out humanitarian work. Several prominent Muslim clerics have been killed in Syria's uprising against President Assad, but the two bishops are the most senior church leaders caught up in the conflict, which has killed over 70,000 people across Syria. Christians make up less than 10% of the country's 23 million people. The European Union agreed on Monday to lift all sanctions on Myanmar except for an arms embargo. This comes after a damning Human Rights Watch report which accused authorities of complicity in the mass killing of Muslims in the west of the country last year. Myanmar, formerly known as Burma, has significant natural resources and borders economic giants such as China and India. Lifting the sanctions will allow Europe to invest in yet untapped market in Asia. The EU said the sanction lift was in response to a dramatic series of reforms put in place since Myanmar's military stepped aside and a quasi-civilian government was installed in 2011. According to the EU policy chief, Myanmar deserved the sanction lift.
And today we closed a very long chapter in our relations with Myanmar-Burma by lifting the political and economic sanctions. Only the arms embargo remains in place. We know that much remains to be done on human rights, on democracy, fighting poverty and achieving lasting peace. We don't underestimate the challenges. But we believe that now it is time to engage more and to help the transition move ahead. All these challenges can be better addressed in an open, democratic society. And we look forward to working closely with the government and all other stakeholders. The people want democracy, peace and prosperity. They deserve it.
In Italy, President Giorgio Napolitano started talks today on forming a coalition. Napolitano's, whose second term has been opposed to by many Italians, gave an angry and very emotional speech to the Italian parliament on Monday, effectively rebuking the politicians. Napolitano said he has only accepted a second term due to the crisis Italy is currently facing. He also said that 2 months after national elections had left no party with a reasonable majority to form a government. The 87-year-old said his deep-rooted sense of identification with the fate of his country was what moved him to try to push for much-needed reforms to reinvigorate Italy's stagnant economy and ineffective political institutions. We move over to the U.S. Federal prosecutors have charged the surviving man suspected of last week's Boston Marathon bombings with 1 count of using a weapon of mass destruction and 1 count of malicious destruction of property resulting in death, the Justice Department said on Monday. Dzhokhar Sarnev, who is still in hospital and drifts in and out of consciousness, could face charges including life in prison and even death. The younger Sarnev, who was seriously injured in a firefight with police before his Friday arrest, was charged on Monday. His brother Tamerlan Sarnev, who carried out the attacks with him, was killed in a police shootout on Friday. According to the White House, Sarnev will not be tried as an enemy combatant in the legal process.
He will not be treated as an enemy combatant. We will prosecute this terrorist through our civilian system of justice. Under U.S. law, the United States citizens cannot be tried in military commissions. And it is important to remember that since 9/11, we have used the federal court system to convict and incarcerate hundreds of terrorists. The effective use of the criminal justice system has resulted in the interrogation, conviction, and detention of both U.S. citizens and non-citizens for acts of terrorism committed inside the United States and around the world. The system has repeatedly proven that it can successfully handle the threat that we continue to face.
In the United States still, the Boston Marathon bombings appear to have sidetracked the much-debated immigration bill. Even in Congress, a question on whether to delay immigration over the bombings came up on Monday. However, the highest-ranking Republican in Washington, U.S. House of Representatives, Speaker John Boehner of Ohio, said he saw no reason for the bombings to delay the debate. In Toronto, Canada, 2 men were arrested by police and charged for plotting to derail a Toronto area passenger train in an operation backed by Al-Qaeda elements in Iran. Shihab Esaihi, 30 of Montreal, and Rayed Jasser, 35 of Toronto, were arrested, and both men are not Canadian citizens. Authorities say there is no link here to the Boston Marathon bombings, which killed 3 people and injured more than 200. Canada's intelligence agency has long expressed concern about the possibility that disgruntled and radicalized Canadians could attack targets at home and abroad. James Malaysia of the Canadian Police said many lives were saved due to quick thinking and reaction.
On April 22nd, after an extensive and complex criminal investigation named Project Smooth, the RCMP arrested and charged 2 individuals for terrorism-related offenses under various sections of the Criminal Code. The RCMP is alleging that Shihab Esaihi and Rayed Jasser were conspiring to carry out an Al-Qaeda-supported attack against a Via passenger train. Had this plot been carried out, it would have resulted in innocent people being killed or seriously injured.
Well, that's all for now. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to Vox Africa, and we shall see you in a moment.